julep, pop, 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 julep, pop, 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 julep, pop, 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 pop.
Thank you so much for coming. Could you tell a little bit more about yourself, your family, why you decided to move?
I didn't want to stay in the United States. The standard of living wasn't what I would like, the crime, the traffic, the pollution.
Where did you live there?
California, Arizona, Colorado, Texas. Nice places, but expensive and a lot of issues in the United States. So I was looking for something better. And since I was raised overseas, I didn't have a problem with thinking outside the box and thinking, okay, maybe move overseas. I started researching from magazines, online, and figured out the top 10 places in the world to live, and it was all the same top 10 places in the world to live. And then I noticed that some of the locations that I was looking at, I knew that there were problems with crime, and there was a problem with politics, and there was a problem with weather. So I started saying, okay, here's my top 10 that I'm going to look at, and then let's look at crime statistics. And Portugal was is still the third safest place in the world. And it was New Zealand,
Iceland.
And Iceland. And Iceland has 350,000 people, and I think everybody's related to everybody in Iceland, and I'm not from there, so. And then New Zealand is beautiful, and I've been there, and it's nice, but expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And,
much expensive than in the United States, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, the houses there seem to be 7 figures routinely.
What was your business in the United States?
Transportation. I was involved in a company that got bought out by another company, and then that company that bought us out went out of business. They told me at 3 o'clock on that Friday, I was at that time vice president for a company, and I had 2,000 employees, I had 57 branches, I had half the United States. And they told me at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, shut everything down by 5 o'clock that afternoon. And I'm like, but that company had bought other companies, so I had 3 or 4 different companies reporting to me. And one of those companies made 200,000 on 2 million in billing in the last month. And I'm like, this too? And they said, shut everything down, we're out of money. And I said, okay, fine. My goal wasn't to retire and worry about money. My goal was to retire and carefree and not worry about it at all. Looking at the cost of living, I'm like, okay, so that kind of put Portugal in the top 5 for safety, cost of living. Then I looked at weather. And there's a certain part of the globe that Malta, Greece and Portugal, that the weather is just to my liking. It's not too hot, not too cold, no snow. I've done snow and ice and don't want to do that again. And so Malta is very small. I haven't been, but it looks very nice, but small. And I'm like, I want a little bit more variety than that. And so I looked at Greece, and Greece was becoming my number 1 choice. And then I read up on Greece.
And you've been there?
I have never been to Greece. My parents have been to Greece. My dad did a lot of traveling. He had been to 135 countries. I've only been like 35. And Greece was their favorite. So I figured, okay, this is something to consider. And I was looking at Crete, and I was looking at the islands. But then I read up on Greece, and they only allow you to stay a year. And the only way to stay longer than a year is to do a golden visa. And I think it was $350 or $500, I don't remember, for that. And I'm like, you know, the whole goal of my retirement isn't to stretch myself to the point that I'm worried. I want to make sure that I have a comfort level and I have money to retire and stay retired forever. So that's brought Portugal to the top. And then I looked at English speaking. There's in the Algarve, there's 450,000 people, 150,000 of them speak English. They're expats. I kind of was surprised when I came out here. I thought more Americans. No, they're Brits, and they're which is fine. But you know, it's and the expat community here is very welcoming. My family stayed in the U.S., and my parents are gone now, and I was taking care of them, and now that job's taken care of, and I was retired. So my kids have come out a few times, and we made a fun game out of
How old
this.
are they?
24, 27, and 30. We're having fun with this now because what we do is there are very few direct flights from California to Portugal.
Direct flights from California?
Yeah, there are very few. There is one from San Francisco, and sometimes there's one from Los Angeles. So we have a little fun with it. What we'll do is we'll fly to Rome, or fly to Paris, or fly to Rome and then go back through Paris. And so basically they're seeing all of Europe every time they come to see me. So it's an adventure for them. It's an adventure for me because I get to see these cities with them. And now I'm actually sick of some of these cities. I've seen them too many times. But there's some beautiful cities out there. So as I've looking at providing, I have source of income from the United States, but I wanted to have a local income source. So what I've done is I bought some apartments here and I've rented them out.
In Algarve as well, yeah? In Algarve as
Yes,
well?
yes. And when the goal is, eventually when I'm gone, is each of my kids gets an apartment. And so they have a place to retire to in the Algarve. Maybe by the time they're retired, I will have sold that one and bought another one or whatever, but that's the goal.
And how many apartments you hold here?
Now 4.
4 apartments,
Yeah.
all of them are in Algarve?
Yes, I may do one more, we'll see. And that's one of the things I liked about the country is the culture, the people, the safety, the weather. There is no traffic. Even in high season, when there is traffic, there's 5 cars on the road. In Los Angeles, 5 o'clock in the morning, there's 20 cars ahead of you. I mean, you can never get away from it. And then here, they've actually measured the air for contaminants. And one of the readings was 0. They couldn't find one of the contaminants. I don't remember which one it was, but it's like, okay, maybe they need more sensitive machines. That's my kind of place to live in. And it's beautiful, and the weather is nice, and you're 5 minutes from the beach, and you can't beat it.
What about the food?
I like the food. I miss some of the food from the U.S. That is one thing that I do miss. I can't find a good Mexican restaurant here to save my life. I like Greek food, and the Greek food here, no offense to the Greek restaurants here, it's not that good. They have, we're very close to, I'm in Albufeira, we're very close to Gia, and Gia chicken. It's pretty simple food, but it's really good. And my honey and I go out there on a regular basis and eat there like once a week or something. And it's ridiculous. It's very, very good food, and I think it's like €6 or €7 per person for this delicious meal that was just prepared.
It's very cheap.
Very cheap.
And what are you doing here on a daily basis? What is your hobby, your routine?
Yeah, actually I'm a lot busier being retired than I thought it would be, because I'm doing the rental properties, and we've bought 4 properties, and basically renovated them, and because I bought cash, got a good deal on them, very good deals on them, but they need to work. And so, a month and a half, 2 months worth of renovations in each one, and you make a 20% return on your investment.
Really?
Yes.
When did you buy it?
In increased value, because when you buy cash, you can get a pretty big discount.
20% return in Portugal,
Yes, it's amazing.
Very big, yeah.
Yes, it's because they have trouble. They have a lot of bureaucracy here. There's some issues in Portugal. It's not all roses, but they're minor compared to what I'm used to. And one of them is bureaucracy, and so
I face bureaucracy a lot of time as well.
Yeah.
Here, yeah.
Yeah. So if somebody's trying to qualify for a loan, I was talking to a banker the other day, and he said that he's had one guy right before me. The guy left. He's been talking to that guy for a year on trying to do a mortgage to buy a house. Apparently there was some issue with the ex-wife, and there was some issue with this and some issue with something else, and a year later he's still trying to buy the house. So you show up and you offer cash, it's very easy to buy.
So your routine is to handle all this stuff related to business, like renting business here?
Yeah.
What else?
That's pretty much all that's keeping me busy. The rest of the time we're doing the, driving around and checking out the different cities, and there's a lot of Portugal I want to go see that I haven't seen yet, but there's a lot to see. It's got a lot of history in Portugal, not as much as some of the other countries like Italy and whatnot, a lot more castles and stuff over there. And if somebody wants museums and all that stuff, Portugal is not the place to go. But if you're looking for life at its most basic, done very well, Good food, good people, relaxing time, right priorities in life, not about just making the money, it's about relationships and family and all that kind of stuff. This is the place to be, I think.
Have you learned the healthcare system here?
It ranks number 12 in the world. That's one of the things I looked up on. It's got,
Personally,
I've actually gone a few times. In the U.S., the woman I used to date had a problem and she cut her fingers, and we went to the emergency room in the U.S. and we got there, and I think we left about 7 hours later, and I think her bill was in the thousands. Here, I had an issue and I had a question, and I walked into emergency. It turned out to be not an emergency thing, but okay, fine. And this is before I had insurance, and I paid 64 euros, and I was in and out of the place in an hour, including getting all the medication that the guy suggested that I get. And that's including the pharmacy. So there is no, no nurses. I talked directly to the doctor, and we sat there and we talked for 15 minutes. You don't get 15 minutes in the doctor in the US. And after about 5 minutes of talking about symptoms and whatever it is, we started talking about weather and golfing and this and that and whatever it is. It's like, you don't do this in the United States. And you meet with a nurse if you're lucky, and then maybe you see the doctor for 3 minutes as he's rushing off to another thing. It's a whole different perspective on life. There's a reason that people in Portugal have a longer lifespan than in the US. That's one of the things I looked at is, okay, so 12th best thing, what does that translate to? Oh, okay, it does correlate. It's not like, So yeah, it's for me, I think it's the most ideal spot to retire in the world, at least, for my taste.
Because cars here are very expensive. But if you buy an electric one, you have some tax discount or something like that.
BMWs, the electric car, have no resale value. Mm-hmm. So if you buy a brand new, it's like 50. Mm-hmm. This is 2019. I got it for 26.
26? Yeah. Nice price.
And it's got 18,000 kilometers on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a beautiful car, and it's fun to drive.
And in the United States, you should have some like GMC or Cadillacs now?
I had a Cadillac Escalade, and I had a Mercedes, and I had a BMW. And that Escalade was ridiculous with gas. But yeah, it's, you have all the toys. Like right here.
A lot of people don't like here that the ocean is cold.
Yes.
But actually last year, temperature in the water like 26 degrees. Mm-hmm. It was in July. So what about you? Have you
yeah, actually it's, for me, I haven't even been in the water yet besides in the boats. It's the sound of the ocean, it's walking along the beach, it's the sunsets, it's all that stuff that for me that does it for me.
Not important for you?
No, yeah. I've actually bought a surfboard and I'm planning on trying surfing at some point. Yes, wow. Yes, but I'm waiting till it's a little bit warmer because yeah, it's cold out there. So I'm trying to talk my neighbor into doing it, and we'll see how it goes.
Actually, in Sagres, there is the best spot here in Algarve because they have 3 types of waves.
Yes.
And it's also a good location for the beginners. So maybe one day I can see you in Nazareth, where it's XXL.
No. I'll just
that is not the goal.
Yeah? No, the little one, just relaxation.
United States citizens are moving here to Portugal. So do you feel this demand increasing here?
From my limited view, it does seem like there is a lot of Americans coming, which I think is a good thing. I think part of that is political. In the last few years, we've had an interesting president. It's the problem with the U.S. And like most countries is people think that their country is the best. Mm-hmm. And they're kind of, that's what everybody tells everybody, and I'm sure every country in the world that says we're the best country in the world because of this and that. So for people to think about moving out of the best country and to go somewhere that's better takes a certain perspective and either craziness or you have to have a little courage or both, I'm not sure. But a lot of people are afraid of that, and they shouldn't be. All the information you need to make a good decision is on the internet. That you talk to people, and you can on Facebook or whatever. But all the information is readily available, and you can verify the information. It's not that hard. I looked up the crime statistics here in about 2 minutes. It's not that hard. I looked at cost of living and of everything. Apartments, how much a gallon of milk costs, all that stuff is on the internet. It's not that hard to look it up. And so there's nothing to be afraid of in making a change. Now, is it different? Yes. Is it better? It all depends what you look for and if you know what you want. I knew exactly what I wanted. I have a list of my 10 things that I wanted. And I came here and I'm like, it's exactly what I thought it was.
Could you share what is in your list?
Cost of living, weather, people liking Americans, English speaking, safe, healthcare, beach, beautiful country. I think there was a couple more that I missed. And it's just basically, you know, traffic, clean air, and political stability. I didn't want to, there are some countries I was looking at that are more off the beaten path, but I wasn't sure that 20 years down the road that their political structure would be the same. And I feel that Portugal probably would be, but you know, we've had our issues in the United States that makes me worried a little bit, so you never know 100% anywhere, but I think that I'm comfortable enough that I bought 4 properties here that I think I know you know, the country will be fine.
Have you faced any disadvantages of living in Portugal?
Just the language. Sometimes when you're talking to people that don't speak English, and so that is annoying, but that's not their fault. That's, you know, this is their country. And the fact that, you know, it's so bureaucratic, and things that in the US would take a minute to do can take you a day or 2 days to do here, and there's a lot more hoops to take care of. For example, in the United States, if you move to a place and you want to add water, electricity, insurance, you can get on the phone, add all of those things in about 20 minutes. You know, if you move to a new house and all that stuff, no problems. Here, it may take you an hour and a half to go somewhere just for one of those things, and you have to go and see them in person with a copy of the contract, the buying the place or whatever you're doing, and there's a lot more paperwork involved for everything. In the United States, they only care about, can you pay? You're promising to pay for this unit, the electricity? Yes, okay, that's all we care about. We don't care if you own it, you're renting, we don't care anything. It's who's going to pay. Here, they want to know that you're owning it, they want to see the copy, or you're renting, or they want to see the lease, they want to see a whole bunch of stuff that is not the usual for me. But, you know, when you're in Rome, you do as the Romans do. That's the price of living in paradise.
Do you know Portuguese already?
I've been studying Portuguese now for 2.5 years, and before I used to speak different languages. And for me, Portuguese is either because of my age or because it's a more difficult language, I'm not sure, or both. So every day I study, and I probably spend about 2 hours a day studying Portuguese. It'll probably take me another 1 or 2 years before I'm comfortable with having a good conversation in Portuguese after about a year and a half of studying every day. It's a hard language, but there are times that you need to learn, you need to know Portuguese when you're talking to people who are not in the, used to dealing with the tourists, government, you know, the water, you know, those kind of places. You have to know some Portuguese.
Do you remember before you moved here, the house of your dream, the picture of your dream in Portugal before you come? So could you explain what is the picture?
I used to run companies before I retired, and so I'm used to planning long term. So when I looked at coming out here, I actually researched about 20 or 30 places I wanted to potentially buy before I came out. I was looking at prices and where they are and all that kind of stuff. But what I didn't count on was the fact that The real estate industry over here kind of lets things lag for a while, so a lot of those things were gone. But still, it gave me an idea of how much the pricing was and what's available and all that kind of stuff. So when I came out, it was pretty much in line with what I thought. There was no real surprises there. It's the only thing is that's been kind of a surprise to me is that learning Portuguese is a little harder than I thought it would be, especially since I used to speak Spanish and French, and you know, I didn't remember struggling that much with those languages, and I kind of figured, okay, romantic language, it should be similar, but no, there's 50 different ways of saying each verb, which is ridiculous, I think, and everything has a sex. Okay, so beer is a feminine thing? Why is beer feminine? And it's like, I don't understand. You know, in the US, beer is usually masculine, but okay, whatever.
Before I moved, I dreamed about a house on a hill with an ocean view with some nice locations. So what did your dream?
I've had all of that stuff before in the past, and for me, coming out here wasn't about having the nice cars and the nice house and all that stuff anymore. I've done all that. For me, it was about just relaxing and chilling and enjoying the culture and listening to some music and walking along the beach and whatever it is. So, you know, I have a one-bedroom place here. It's not very big. It's nice. It's updated. It's fine, but it's not very big because I don't need it. I don't want to be cleaning house all day long. I don't want to be doing all of that stuff. It's fine. I remember before when I had a 4-story house with 5 bedrooms, 5 baths.
In California?
Yes. It was a nice view of the lake with a dock, with a boat and all that stuff, and had my toys and my cars and whatever. You spend a lot of time taking care of your stuff. Now you got to make a big house payments and and a lot of taxes, and yeah, I mean, just my property tax and my insurance was about $9,000 a year.
You mentioned that it's very safety country,
yes.
But how do you feel this in a daily basis? Like,
Very, very safe. The crime here is theft. I haven't had any issues with that personally. In the United States, I lived in a really, really nice, expensive area and with an expensive house. And I left the garage door open and somebody stole the bicycle out of the garage.
Really?
Yeah. And this was houses that are over $1 million each one. And somebody stole my bicycle. Here, I have no qualms about that. I'm not worried if I leave the house, and if I left it unlocked, you're going to go through there. Okay. And then you see people, you see women walking alone at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and they're safe. I mean, there's always crimes. You know, there's always going to be problems at some point, but it's so much safer here than most anywhere else. It's not an issue.
it was great interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you.